Hello everybody, so I'm Miles Lewis, alum '07, artist and educator. And making images gives me one phrase that I'll suspend in the air for 5 minutes, and by which you'll get some biography. So, a good quote for all this is from Oscar Wilde: "Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth." Now, when I was 14, I read through a survey of art history. I responded most strongly to those images where I felt the ghost of an imagination that I could eventually inhabit. And I felt quite simply about it, and when I was absorbed, it was exclusive. Here are some of the names of ghosts that overwhelmed me. So Gustav Klimt, elegance here, the surprising depth of broken surfaces, epic absurdity, and a masterful joy of life. And then here are some paintings that sort of exist in my mind in the same place, some of my own work. So Candles on Ingot, Body and Mind, being a surprising depth of broken surfaces, epic absurdity, and the masterful joy of life. So each of these visionary aspects can suggest a world unto its own. They exist as detectably in fashion as in philosophy, and I feel that some of the most telling illustrations occur in the many dispositions of 20th century architects and designers. Look at these 4 different lines on the mechanism of livable design from Frank Lloyd Wright, Le Corbusier, and Buckminster Fuller, all 20th century sort of visionary architects. These are not empirical formulae for what makes the best architecture. They are maxims of poetry with building as their meditation. And I was excited to come back to school, to speak with all of you because I think that there are some excellent seeds in high school humanities that I'd like to give my perspective on a few years out. Through the humanities, there's my voice. So through the humanities, we're encouraged to occupy another's worldview through language, the principles of debate, and cultural understanding. It is very expanding to have to write essays and arguments from another's perspective. But I remember how the awkwardness and uncertainty of teenage identity used to prevent this from coming forward as a real positive. So many seem to leave high school with the self-confidence of a sudden identity scheduled for high school graduation, and without a professionally reasonable or philosophically potent self-understanding as a vessel for the world of ideas. My challenge for you is to hold on to the practice of self-consciously composing from another's perspective. This self-consciousness doesn't mean the anxiety of identity. It can mean the absolute substance of humility. Perhaps you've heard some variation on the idea that adult creativity is a form of maintained childhood. And this may be a first step, so that maintaining the masquerade of teenage may be just as important and as a conscious effort. In that way, play marries imitation. You do it already and will always do it. As a young teacher, I've come to see comedy as the standard. When joking, we play characters, deal in timing, pitch, subject matter, likeness, metaphor, dance really, and the almost violently brave technique that comes from the direct expectation of an emotional response from your audience. We practice this art early on because of how pleasurable it is, and frankly because of how much good it does by creative competition. How thrilling is mounting laughter, and then how dead is the opposite artistic statement. I can't even draw a stick figure. Very few become professionals in the arts, where our training conditions us to see the idea of who we are as just that, an idea, perhaps a brand, and definitely a mold. But I think that there's meaning for everybody in building a laboratory of personality. When you've got a grasp on your social mask, don't throw it off in the purpose of truth. Make it as transparent as a window. Clean it with honesty, switch it with courage. Let people peer through and see the act of pumping emotions into an expanding set of values. When you are transparent with who you feel like being, you will enlighten others who experience that same ambition in their unavoidable individual differences. Give it some time so that after a few of who you are dies out from insufficient gardening, something else grows with a kind of necessity that you can't help but cultivate because of how pleasurably it incites, inspires, and cares for everyone in the network that those many in you have assembled. And so in my eyes, art is a kind of allegory, a way of thinking, and a set of symbols for this process. And please pardon some of the impressionism of the description. There are only a few speechwriters that I've tried to imitate, and this one will surely die after I leave the stage. And so I'm going to end with images from 3 periods of my own process of trying things on. So as a junior, senior in high school here, I was working outside of school and doing a lot of studies from old masters, Renaissance, post-Renaissance work. From age 19 to 22, spent some time in New York, came back out here, started teaching, created a sort of private teaching studio. And I was playing with a lot of techniques and isms, many different kinds of paint and printmaking. Egg temperas on the right, an old Renaissance formulation, acrylic on the left, and very different treatments of form and atmosphere. And then what I've been doing more recently as I've graduated from college. So multimedia, collaboration, a lot of digital work. I have a few online projects going where I do sort of call and response composition with friends, and I'm very excited to see what the internet does for this kind of laboratory of personality, not just working in a studio anymore. So a lot of series of work, seeing how each one of these characters represents a sort of complete character or message. And photo manipulation. And photo manipulation turned to more traditional means. The work on the right is very much worked up in Photoshop, but then printed in a traditional method of photography called photogravure, which is photography on copper. And so that's it. You can look for more of my work or check out my studio, sort of a college preparatory studio, at my website. Thank you very much.